www.offthecorner.net. You're watching the Fact Project here on Full Blast Radio. FACT is an acronym that stands for Fundamental African Centered Thought. Our goal here on the FACT Project is to convey some facts and some information to members of our community. For those of you who have watched the program for the last 3 or so weeks, CMOTAP, which is the Committee to Eliminate Media Offensive to African People, as well as the Clear the Airways Project, has launched a campaign against Netflix because of their deplorable portrayal of African American people in the animated reboot of Good Times on Netflix. The call is to cancel your Netflix, and basically James McIntosh from CMOTAP wrote an open letter to Netflix, which is on offthecorner.net. We are encouraging everyone to copy and paste that letter and send that in an email. You could send that in a snail mail. Either way, just try to get that letter over to Netflix as quickly as you can. Netflix address is 888 Broadway. Like I said, just copy paste the letter and get that over to Netflix and let them know that we are not happy with the way they have portrayed us in the animated reboot of Good Times. Okay, so we have with us today recording artist, author, activist, revolutionary out of the Michigan area, Brother Haru Neteru. Peace, Brother Haru. Thank you for joining us today, brother.
Peace be upon you, man. I'm just chilling, man. On this Monday morning, it's gray and cloudy, but that's good. It was a great weekend, but I'm here, man. I'm just getting into this Monday morning, man, and looking out onto the rest of the week on, things that I got to take care of and stuff like that. But it's just a typical Monday, man, just chilling.
Okay. So we brought you on to talk to you about your music, your forthcoming book. Is the book done yet?
Oh, no, I'm still in the writing phases of it. And I'm also looking out for a publisher.
Okay.
So, yeah, but it's for the most part, it's written for the most part. Just doing the details and the proofreading, the process.
Sure. All right, well, before we get to that, when I have new guests on, I like to try to familiarize my audience with the new guests. So for the people watching this, what was your journey into getting knowledge of yourself? What was that story?
Well, I'm considered old school at this point, and it had to be like, let's say 1989. A friend of mine had a job I was working at, had like crazy books, mad books, and it was an older cat. At the time I was a young man, and this dude slid me those books, and he slid me like several different books, but one that stuck out in particular was a book by Dr. Ben called The Nile and the Black Man in the Nile Family, something to that effect. But the book had like 500 pages in there, right? So I'm like in the 11th grade, 12th grade, taking this to school, and I'm like, yo, look at this, look at this, look at that. And it was mad thorough, to the point to where it was more advanced than where I was at. But I still did my best to try to decipher it. And like I said, it was 500 books, and I learned a whole lot at that time. And it kind of like segue into X-Clan, So when, about the key, with the key, sis, I automatically associated that with the Ankh. I kind of think that's what they were talking about, whether they publicly admit it or not. So, yeah, and pretty much the rest is history, man. Once I got a hold of that Kemetic information, you know what I mean? I was like, yo, this is it right here. And at the time, they was trying to give me a bunch of Islamic books, which was cool. you know, it helped. But I was trying to get after that comedic information. So, and pretty much it's been like that ever since. I've been studying for the most part since around 1989, centered around Kemet, but other things. But that was like the first thing that I went to.
All right. So you mentioned Dr. Ben, Black Man of the Nile, and his family. Good book. Who were some of the other scholars at the time that caught your attention?
Besides Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark at that time, you know, the brother that gave me the book gave me an assortment of books. Like I had books issued from the government. I had like a psychic books. You know, I had books that was just for you to develop your psychic ability. That was like a government issue, you know. I had the anarchist cookbook, you know. As far as different authors, you know, Haru Neteru, you know, man, I'm trying to think. It's going away right now at this time. All the different scholars, man. Like you know, Doctor. I've also studied Dr. York stuff. You know what I'm saying? But you know, I've evolved. For those who got any questions about that, you know what I mean? I've evolved through that, and just several different genres of information. But I would go as far as to say, as a child, my mom's was into the concept of the all. And it was a record made by an artist, I think it's a jazz artist. Man, his name is the tip of my tongue. Horace Silver, that's his name. Horace Silver. He had an album called The All, and it was breaking down all the 7 principles of Jehudi. And this is like the, you know, early 70s, late 60s type of vibe. And when I was coming along, Moms was listening to it. And I'm like, yo, basically, what's this? What's the all, you know? And she's trying to explain it to me. You know how it is when you're a child, you know, and she's talking about the all this and the all that. And as a child, I'm like, are you talking about the washing detergent? You know what I mean? She laughed at me. It's like, no, that's not what it is, you know. But anyway, I got a glimpse of it then, and then it kind of went in my subconscious mind. And then later on, as it came back out, you know, that's why I was gravitated to that particular science and dealing with Kemet, or at least the school of Jehudi, so to speak, you know. But man, I'm gonna have to get a list of those scholars because I went totally blank.
That's okay. And I forgot to mention
all those books, yo. It's like mad books, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
But the area though was Afrocentric, especially back in the early 90s, because you had these different rap groups at the time that was also inspiring me to read and get to know the ancestors or whatnot. I mean, obvious ones like KRS-One. I mean, you know, X-Clan, as I mentioned previously, and then a whole laundry list of other rappers at that time that was inspiring me to study the Afrocentric spiritual knowledge and whatnot. So, you know, past 92, 93, when Cash was falling off, I stayed on it, you know, especially on the music tip. I stayed on it in terms of the message. And, you know, even back then, as a young man, I knew it was a scam. You know, after 92, and I was kind of like into the industry, everybody that was getting signed was on some like gangster stuff. And at the time, I thought it was fishy. But then fast forward 30 years later, they talking about, yo, it was just, you know, secret meeting to have all the rappers basically be the poster boys to the penitentiary. We know how that went.
Yeah, for real. For real. And I forgot to mention that you're in the state of Michigan.
Yeah.
So for the people that's watching this, Brother Haru is not out of New York. So, you know, in the state of Michigan, how were you catching wind of, you mentioned like Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, and all of those people, because here in New York, they lived in New York. So how did you catch wind of all of those scholars in the Michigan area?
Well, yeah, it was kind of like it was fate, I suppose, because the brother that I was working with, he collected a lot of books. He was in the army and he collected a lot of books. So, you know, one day I'm coming into work, we had this big old duffel bag of books. I'm like, yo, what's this? And we're looking through the books and I'm like, oh shit, son. So we got like mad different genres of books, yo. So when I started reading the Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark, and I knew they was in New York, it was a break from the action because in the early 90s, it was hard to get those books here in Michigan. So I didn't get a whole lot of those books, but it was really hard to get a hold of those books. And then like back then, a lot of comedic teachings was coming from people in New York City, like your Mfundishis and whatnot. And not just him, the Mfundishi before him. There was another one before him.
Sure.
And a couple of people here in the Detroit area was catching the wind of it. Thus, you have Baba Kalindi. Everybody who trained in African martial arts for him was automatically from that school of thought under Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark. So that's when Baba Kalindi came up with the comedic martial arts and things of that nature because of the intense study that he was doing under those scholars. And it pretty much just trickled down. But as time went on, it was easier for us to get those books from Dr. Ben and Dr. Clark.
Now,
and many of their students too that I can't even remember their names too.
Well, you got to throw Ashwa Kwesi. You got to mention him if you talk about students.
Oh, Ashwa Kwesi, yes.
Booker T. Coleman, Dr. Kaba Kamene.
Yeah.
Now, were they traveling out to the Michigan area to do lectures? Because they did travel the country back then.
Yeah, they traveled, but it was so underground and so groundbreaking because at the time, what they were pushing on Black people here in Michigan as far as an alternative view, or I don't want to say woke, but the alternative view was Islam. Detroit is a very huge place for Islam. You know what I mean? It's like the most Middle Eastern people live here in this area outside of the Middle East. So we were heavily influenced by Islam. In fact, my grandparents on my father's side was one of the first people in the Nation of Islam back in the 1930s. They actually knew the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. So here in Michigan, there was an Islamic culture going on as well. But I said, you know what? This is the same as Christianity, man. Where's the Kemet stuff? So I was trying to find that for years, you know what I mean? But the dynamic here at the time was mostly Islam. And they, you know, back in those days, they associated Islam with you know, Black liberation, and that's not what it is. That's, you know, what they try to put it together, you know, with the Muhammad Ali and the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. A lot of people was associating Islam with some kind of Black identity, which it was not. So I was really, like I said, really trying to get to that knowledge in as far as the ancient Kemetic stuff. And it was very hard to understand at first, man. You know, you're coming out of a Christo-Judeo type of paradigm, and then you're going into something that they told us was evil in our eyes. You know, you got the Ten Commandment movie that came on every Easter. You know what I'm saying? So, but the biggest thing that really rocked my world was reading the story, the Arthurian drama. Reading that, and my mouth dropped, and I'm like, yo, so just where they got Jesus from, yo, like that was tripping, right? So did the research on that, and it just, like I said, I've been studying that all this time. I mean, amongst other things, but that's the area that I like to study in because it covers technology too. A lot of brothers, they get into the information and they just talk about the historical concepts of Kemet, the 25 dynasties, and that's cool. The Haru Neteru, and that's cool. But as I've the last 20 years or so, I focus more on the school of thought of Tahuti, which the Europeans call Hermes and Mercury and things of that nature. So that's where it's at, in my opinion, in terms of Kemet, because it's a practical knowledge you can use today. It's good to have historical knowledge because that's how you know where you're going, your trajectory, you know where you've been, you know where you're going. But the meat and potatoes of this whole thing in terms of Kemet, in my opinion, is the 7 principles of Jahuti. And that's pretty much what everything's based on. Anything that's worth calling high sciences is based on that, or spirituality or esoteric information is based on that. That's like the master key. So I've been studying that, and with great results. Now I have a context to understand really what they were talking about in ancient Kemet, because outside of that, it's really ambiguous and mystery based, and it's hard for people to grasp that without the scientific terms or whatever, modern scientific terms. So that breaks all that down. That fills a big gap into the mystery systems. And then, I can't exclude Mayat, because a lot of times, a lot of brothers get into the knowledge and they don't study Mayat, and they become knowledgeable, but not very good people. Their hearts are still heavy. I met those types, brilliant students, brilliant scholars. But when you get to learn their personality, it's like not so much. That's because they don't study Mayat. That's like a checks and balances to go with the knowledge that you have. What's the point of having the knowledge if you're not a good person? So that's why I use those as checks and balances.
Okay.
In the symbolic way, I would say Mayat and Jahuti would be married if they were actual beings. So we just say that they're actual beings, and we're really talking about principles. But if they were actual beings, they would be married. They go together like that. You got 7 principles of Tahuti. You got the all on the Tahuti side, but on the Mayat side, you got order. You got as above, so below. Then on the Mayat side, you got seek justice on earth as it is in heaven. And then you got on the Tahuti side, the law of vibration, which is the throat chakra, and also on the Mayat side, the concept of truth, speak the truth. Your heart chakra, polarity, that's righteousness. You want to polarize on righteousness. You got rhythm, the principle of rhythm, which is Tahuti, but you got the principle of balance, which is Mayat, which is the same thing.
Now, what can you tell us about the 7 principles of Jehuti? I mean, you don't have to say them all, but what are some of the examples of the 7 principles of Jehuti?
That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going down right now.
Okay.
It's actually, I'm on rhythm, and then from rhythm, you got cause and effect, and from cause and effect, you have the principle of gender. So basically, these 7 principles, and I've done the research on it, is really much the key to everything. I know we seen Terrence Howard say, so he been bugging out lately. You know what I mean? And the stuff is as profound as what he's saying. As profound as it is, the 7 principles of Jehuti is just as profound as the flower of life, the seed of life. You know what I'm saying? It's just that fundamental when it comes to thinking. And once you grasp the 7 principles, you can figure anything out. Especially of an esoteric nature. Science and mathematics, that's a given. But when you take the
7 principles and apply it to any system, any esoteric system, it sets you up to master it quickly.
Okay. Now, when you said when you first started getting knowledge, this was the late 80s, correct?
Yes, sir.
And when you were a lot younger, some of us, we were a little bit more hotheads, and we bumped heads with other people that were not necessarily on that particular tier on the ladder as far as their consciousness. Did you have some of those situations where you bumped heads with other people that weren't because you were so busy trying to school everybody?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of ego back then. When you're young and you grow up in this American construct, when they teach you your whole life that you're secondary, that you're not any good, that you know how they do, and you get to some knowledge, it makes you feel powerful. It makes you feel important. It makes you feel significant. And I think in a lot of times, different cats was getting different nuggets of knowledge, and it made them feel proud or whatever. And that was misplaced, and it came across as a conflict, and maybe it came across as competition. But for the most part, we were building at that time. It wasn't like how it is now, where everybody has to debate with you. It was still debates, don't get me wrong, but it was a little bit more cohesive to an understanding. And the biggest brothers I used to debate with was the FOI. Those brothers are brilliant when it comes to debates, man. I mean, I actually learned some tips from them.
Okay.
From Brother Machete and Rasul down at Mosque Number 1 here in Detroit. So I took what I could from them, and you know what I'm saying. But the most debate was coming from the Islamic side. We was on our African stuff, and they was like, "Yo, we," the argument.
Sure. So now, you mentioned the 7 principles of Jehuti. What about the teachings of Ptah-hotep? You studied that as well?
Ptah-hotep. The little yellow book, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah, the little yellow book. Yeah. I mean, it's similar. Okay. Ptah-hotep is obviously written by one of ours, and it put our perspective on it. Sometimes it's hard to read the Kabbalion because the words just throw you off, because they be saying stuff like Hermes and Greeks, and I'll be like, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a great book. The Amenhotep. That was a very good. That was a very great book. What's the other brother name? He just did the Osarian drama. He did the Comedic Tree of Life. Mawasa Ashby.
Ashby.
Is that his name?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, he's down in Georgia. Sure.
Yeah, so I like his material too.
Okay.
He's thorough. You're not going to agree with everything everybody writes, but for the most part, I resonate with his teachings as well, because he seems to be going in that comedic direction. I see that he borrows a lot from the Hindu faith, and he makes a lot of examples for the Indian and the Eastern Indian thing. But for the most part, I could dig that.
Now, do you see similarities between Ma'at, 7 principles of Jehuti, the teachings of Ptah-hotep? Do you see similarities between those teachings and a lot of the teachings that come out of, let's say, China, Tao Te Ching, and so forth? Do you see a similarity between the two?
Absolutely. And I'm glad you mentioned this, because this is what the book that I'm writing is about. So now that we're talking about we're getting into the Eastern thought of the thing. So, my intention is not to create some kind of new martial art or, put two things together that don't belong together. That's not what I'm doing, or I'm not trying to reinvent Tai Chi or reinvent the Kemetic mystery schools. All I did was put them together, and they went together seamlessly in terms of the 7 principles of Tahuti and Tahuti Ching, or even more accurately, the 7 principles of Tahuti and Tai Chi Chuan, the boxing aspect of it. And I come up with a system called Mystical Tai Chi, in which I don't change any of the movements. I don't try to add or take away to it. I leave the movements as is from the Yang style Tai Chi. And basically from the bottom to the top, so I go from the 7 to the 1. So basically, when you're doing these, this mystical Tai Chi is 7 different forms of meditation. The form is the same, but you apply 7 different meditation exercises to it. So you might go with, for a couple of weeks, meditation 7. And then when you get used to that, you go to meditation 6, so on and so forth. And they aren't just meditation, they are like different exercises associated to one group. So it might be 1 or 2 per group. So when we're dealing with genders, I'm gonna go at 7, I'm gonna try to go speed through this. And which is wrong with society now, because society doesn't understand the principle of gender, which means feminine and masculine to come together to create something. Whether it's a battery, whether it's like on your car, you got negative and positive, those forces come together to create something. Feminine and masculine energy has to exist to create. There's no way around it. Society has polarized people from one end to another end. Thus, your creation is happening. It's totally against, this whole pride thing is totally against creation. And I'm not like homophobic and nothing like that, you know, live your life how you want to, but I'm just saying that aspect of the gender is distorted. Because once again, when you start dealing with subatomic particles, electrons will be considered feminine and protons will be considered masculine. But they must come together to create reality. You know, in creation, the masculine directs and the feminine builds and creates. So your will is the masculine aspect of your mind. And that's considered the I, right? And then the me is the feminine part of your mind. And that deals with creation. That deals with your ability to come up with ideas. It deals with, you know, the creative process. It does most of the active work. The same thing happens with a sperm and an ovum. The sperm sparks it, but the female does all the active work. This thing is created all through creation. This repeats, this cycle repeats. So society has it to where 2 of the same polarities can be together, which is impossible. 2 of the same polarities always repel one another. So this is common sense at this point. But gender is the secret to creating things, whether it's a psychological thing with the I and the me, whether it's a biological thing, or whether it's a subatomic thing or a quantum thing. So boom, you got that. So then you go to cause and effect, and the way that it applies to the everyday person, cause and effect, just got to train your mind and look for the cause instead of the effects. And nothing is chance. There's no such thing as luck. There's no such thing as that sort of thing, because there's a chain of events that happen since the beginning of time, and they unfold a certain way. And we don't have the mind to go back to comprehend the causality. So it looks spontaneous. It looks like, oh, this is just happening. No, there are many causes and effects that brought you to that moment. And what we do will cause certain things and have effects for those in the future. You know what I mean? So it's cause and effects. It's basically being responsible for your actions and whatnot. And if you can master cause and effect, you can master your environment, I mean, you see this in Jeet Kune Do, where he says, Bruce Lee's basically like, to hell with circumstances, I create my own. That's where that mentality comes from. So then you got, karma and things of that nature. What you get out, what you put out, you get back. That's cause and effect. Rhythm is sort of the same thing. Rhythm is just like the ups and downs in life. The rhythm is like the different seasons of the year. Rhythm is compensation. So when it goes in this direction, it has to automatically come back in this direction to create a balance. And you got polarity, which is a lot of people have a hard time dealing with polarity or understanding. Basically, polarity is all paradoxes may be reconciled, and basically extremes meet. And what I mean by that is, like on a quantum level, this and that can exist at the same time as opposed to this or that.
Mm.
So everything is and isn't at the same time when you're dealing with polarity. And how that applies to everyday life is like if you having a difficult day or a difficult time, you polarize on that opposite sensation to make that negative energy go away. So that's how that's applied. Vibration. We already know how powerful vibration is. I mean, you can levitate things with vibration. You can heal things with vibration. Everything is a vibration. Even things became here. Every vibration has a shape, sound, and color, and every shape, sound, and color has a vibration. And he who grasps the principle of vibration has grasped the scepter of power, as the ancients say. So vibration is, is power. It's that's one of Tesla's cornerstones. Think of the universe in terms of vibrations, frequency, and energy. So you got that, and you got correspondence as above, so below. And a lot of people who study, the dark magic and Satanists kind of hijack that. People think when you hear as above, so below, that's some satanic stuff. And it's not, man. It's basically everything has a reflection. You can study the known, study the unknown by studying the known. You can study stuff on our plane and see how things work on other planets. That's all that is about. Correspondence is astrology. It is the tarot. It is the I Ching. So these things are connected in that regard. It's like a second set of eyes on the plane that you don't exist in based on what you see in front of you. So then the last principle or the top principle is to all basically quantum physics, that everything is just one thing expressing itself in different forms, but it's one unified energy. So that's pretty much that, the 7 principles of Tahuti, but they also apply to Tai Chi. Because when you start talking about the all, you got to talk about the Tao. That's what the Chinese people call the all. They call it the Tao. You start talking about as above, so below, you start talking about correspondence, your I Ching books. And Chinese medicine is full of correspondence. Xingyi, a movement, this helps your lungs. Another movement helps your intestines. Another movement helps your heart. So that's correspondence. Vibration. When you doing chi, tai chi or whatever, and you breathe into your bones, that creates a vibration. You bone breathe and then you exhale, and you can release that vibration. Of course, that's like more advanced tai chi. Polarity. It's just focusing on that moment. That's how you apply that to Tai Chi. Not in the past, not in the future, just on that moment, polarize on that moment. And what happens is you understand that the past, present, and future is the same thing happening at the same time, but it takes for one to polarize in that moment to get that sensation.
Now
Rhythm.
Go ahead.
Said rhythm is obviously movement. So cause and effect is being able to use somebody else's effect and creating your own causality, creating your own effect. And then gender obviously is the yin and yang. So those principles I put together in the book so people can understand the correlations.
Wow, this is going to be good. And what's the title of the book?
Mystical Tai Chi.
Mystical Tai Chi. You mentioned Ma'at, and you mentioned some other things. Well, we know about the concept of duality that comes out of, what they call Chinese philosophy with the yin and yang. What is the African origin of this concept of duality?
Well, I mean, we can go back to Atum going against F.A.C.T. Atum comes out of his own egg with his own voice, his own command. It was all darkness. But his only enemy was chaos, which is F.A.C.T. But you need chaos in order to have an existence. And contrary to popular belief, the chaos existed first before order, and darkness existed before the light. But those dualities did exist in the very beginning. I mean, even the 8 odd gods, they come in pairs. Noon, Noonet. He had Kike, Amun, and Amunet. So you got the duality there, and that's the baseline of creation.
Okay, now the symbol that we know of is the Ankh. Does that also represent the concept of duality?
Absolutely. Back in high school, man, when that Afrocentric thing, I know I keep making reference to that, man. We had the medallions, and when we got our hands from our Ankh, we started studying the Ankh, and we started studying how the top represents the womb, and then the fallopian tubes on the side, and then the birth canal, and you have man, woman, and child, but man and woman, these forces. And they understood that both of the forces work together. So,
understood. So you mentioned martial arts. What was your introduction into that? I think everyone has a different story as it relates to that also.
Martial arts, just like many African people here in this country, we was exposed to through the movies. Obviously, Bruce Lee, obviously the Shaw brothers, and the culture of it all. And it just spoke to me, man, since I was a child, man. And I knew that when I got to a certain age, I would seek formal training. And that's pretty much what I did.
Yeah, when I was a little kid in the Bronx, I'm like 3-4 years old. I saw a Jim Kelly movie on TV. So I saw Jim Kelly actually as a small child before I saw Bruce Lee. And I saw Jim Kelly with the leather jacket, the afro. I mean, he had all the latest clothes and he could beat everybody in a fight. For me, it was downhill after that. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was downhill after that. And then, many years later, we saw the Shaw Brothers films, the 5 Deadly Venoms or Master Killer or whatever, But when I saw that Jim Kelly, oh, that was it for me, bro. It was downhill for me after that. I knew that's what I wanted to do when I saw him.
Absolutely, man. Jim Kelly's the truth, man. I mean, not only was he a movie star, he was an actual karate champion.
Yes, he was.
He put in the work. He ain't just an actor, you know what I'm saying? He actually put in the work.
Yeah, he's no Steven Seagal. He actually was the real deal.
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
now,
man.
We talking. Now, what was your introduction into Tai Chi? Because that's something, a lot of people in the States, they might know about karate or what's the other one out of Korea, the very popular one, Taekwondo.
Taekwondo, yeah.
Tai Chi is popular, but how did you come upon that?
Let's see. I was already studying Jeet Kune Do at the time. I had to have been 23 or 24. And I was studying Jeet Kune Do. And it was a hard style. And then I came across Tai Chi. I don't know if I saw a Tai Chi movie. And I'm like, yo, this is kind of cool how they doing Kung Fu and they meditating too. So I was like, wow, I was taken aback by that. And I said, hey, man, let me just try this out. And I said, when I was around 24, man, I went and got a tape from Walmart, man. And there was a Tai Chi video for health. And I said, you know what? I'm still going to learn it. So I went on ahead and learned it. And I modified it to my liking over the years. But I was becoming a more spiritual person, a more enlightened person. So I figured the Tai Chi would be suitable for me at my pace of evolution. So I started to get into that. And then, the rest is history.
Now, did you ever compete in any competition, forms competition, Tai Chi, any competition at all?
Not necessarily Tai Chi. I mean, because up until now, it's not too many people here that do push hands and stuff like that. I never got into a push hands. The only time I used Tai Chi was for real. But I really had to defend myself for real.
I got you. So you're also a hip hop artist, and that's how I came across you many years ago. And I listened to your music and I said, man, this dude is saying everything that I'm thinking in my head in his lyrics. So, like, what was your introduction into rap music? Because you're in the state of Michigan, rap is bubbling coming out of New York. How did you first hear rap music? What was that story?
Well, you know how the story goes. Everybody outside of New York didn't know what hip hop was until Rappers Delight. So when I first heard that, I'm like, okay, I could do that.
That's
and
funny.
Then the Grandmaster Flash came through with that flavor, and I'm like, oh, this is getting good. So then, next thing you know, you got Run DMC and Fat Boys. And I was like, at that point, I'm doing this. You know what I mean? After Run DMC and the Fat Boys, I said, let me go ahead and see what's going on. And I wrote my first rhyme. I was like, man, the 4th or 5th grade or something like that. And we just love hip hop in general. Because before the rapping, I was a B-boy. And when B-boys started going out of style, when it started getting viewed as being corny because everybody else started doing it, and it started being on national TV, then we in the street started saying, yo, they made B-boy and corny. So we started doing other things, and beatboxing and things like that. So like I said, I heard the Run DMC and all that stuff back then, and I'm like, I gotta try this. But I didn't come into becoming a supreme lyricist until Big Daddy Kane, because I studied the way he put his words together, and then I came back out on the streets and started murdering all these MCs around here. Okay. They didn't catch on to the double syllable thing for like a decade.
Okay.
They didn't catch on to that for about a decade. I was rapping like Big Daddy Kane. I said, let me see how he put the words together. I mean, I really studied how he put his words together, man, like on the symphony. He said, I'll attend and then begin to sing to reach the, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That type of stuff.
Yes.
So I'm like, you can't live off the Zeus that I produce because I the loose abuse is worse than Zeus, my worst dispute, you know what I'm saying? And I was doing that at 16, 17 years old. And they was like, whoa, who is this guy?
Right.
So I just kept, staying on that formula with the lyrics, with the supreme lyricism. I'm down with, I've always been down with that type of hip hop. The Juice Crew. I like Master Ace, Cool G Rap, out of the Bronx, Kool Moe Dee. Okay. So I put all that together and just came up with my own thing and wanted to do something that was relevant to Black people, something that was relevant, something that was, relevant to our existence and what's going on, and something that's positive. And like I said, I was trying to get a record deal back in the 90s, and I moved to New York for that purpose. And I'm glad that I didn't, You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't wanted to see all that stuff that we seeing today, i.e. the Diddy thing and whoever else.
Right.
That was going on down back then. Because I was about to sign a Now Records. I was talking to Relativity. I was talking to Raucous Records. You know what I'm saying? I was staying in Brooklyn for that sole purpose of trying to get a record deal. And I'm glad that I did because of how things. But I was mad at myself for a long time that I didn't. But now that things are coming out the way they are, I'm like, yeah, I'm glad I did get a deal.
Yeah, you seeing it for what it is. Now you got a lot of albums under your belt. How many albums have you done so far?
Let's see. Solo albums and EPs. I did let's see. I dropped my first one in '93. That was called The Lyric King. I was with a group called Verbal Occult, and we dropped the EP like '96. I dropped my whole full length CD solo joint in 2003. So I got like 7 or 8 solo joints. And I got an album with my nephew out of California, Zodiac Killer, one of the best rappers in the universe. And I ain't just saying it. This dude is insane. And then my recent ones, I got like 5 recent ones. I got Melanin Theory. You know, I got F.A.C.T 1, 2, and 3, Kung Fu Genius. And my latest one is going to be dealing with the 7 principles of Jehudi. It's called The High Priest and the Magic Key.
Okay.
So that's the latest joint that's coming out.
Okay, now just to let you know the impact that your music has had. I was in New York years ago and I was driving around playing one of your CDs and I had somebody with me. In fact, I'm going to try to play one of his songs. Sam's son, incredible artist, incredible lyricist. He's like an underground dude. Like, you know what I mean? He's that dude. So I put it on in the car while I'm driving to see what his reaction would be. And it passed the smell test. He was like, yo, who's this? I said, yo, it's my dude out of Michigan. He's like, Michigan? Yo, this is hot. He was digging it. And he's got a very high standard. So to let you know the impact that your music, has, it's definitely got that gritty underground quality to it, And when and when the underground heads give you a thumbs up out of New York, you're doing it right. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, man. Man, thank you. Much gratitude, man. Much gratitude.
Now you were out in the state of Michigan, and like for us in New York, we had like Mr. Magic, Marley Marl, Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out, and then it was like more underground shows. Like you had college radio. So for example, you had Dr. Dre, who hosted Yo MTV Raps. He's from out here. He had an underground radio show that was out of Adelphi College. It was Monday night at like 10. And we had like WRHU college radio station that was playing underground hip hop. So after you went off of the commercial stations that were doing the mix shows for a couple hours on the weekend, Saturday night you would go down the dial and you would hear other shows playing other underground records. So we had in New York like DNA and Hank Love. That's for the heads, that would stay up until 2 a.m. just to take rap music off the radio because they were playing music that the other stations were not playing. So for you in Michigan, what were those shows that you listened to that was playing that real gritty underground?
Well, we had a DJ named the Electrifying Mojo. He played everybody's stuff, but he gave hip hop a chance. He was one of the first people to start playing, hip hop because it was new. And this is like in the mid '80s, and we had Billy T. Yo, he used to be rocking. Yo, Billy T would be rocking. Man, on school nights, we would come to school the next day. It's like, yo, did you hear that new KRS-One? You know what I mean? He would play the B-side joints that wasn't on the album. I think it's the joint when he's scratching, you got the time. That joint. Yeah. That wasn't on none of his records. So they would play like underground stuff like that wasn't out. So we really was, this Billy T. We had the Wizard. You know what I mean? He used to rock a whole lot of dope hip hop back in the day. And we had our own like underground hip hop thing in Detroit. You know, we had brothers like Chaos and Maestro. We had Awesome Dre, A-Wall, Detroit Most Wanted, and a lot of OGs like that, Smiley. And this is before Eminem. Esham, this is before Eminem. And back in the 90s, that whole 8 Mile movie was about people from my generation.
Sure.
Yeah, I remember when M used to come down there. Slim Shady used to come down there and stuff like that. He didn't look the way he looks now. Big Proof, you know what I'm saying? You know, Big Proof used to be big with rock. He used to rock dreads. He was a big dude back then. Man, who else? Oh yeah, Dilla, Jay Dilla, yes. And a host of bad people, just bad MCs that never made it out. I wish a lot of those underground people would have came out because it was some real talent here in Detroit. You know what I'm saying, in terms of hip hop is concerned. But you know, the world heard Dilla. So
yeah, you had Guilty Simpson and a lot of other artists out of Michigan State. That was really dope, man. You know, that was really dope. Yeah. And some of them might even been on New York labels, like you know, Fat Beats or whatever, you know.
Yeah, Royce the Five was on Tommy Boy for a minute.
Yes, he was. Royce the Five was he was on a few different labels, but that's another, you know what I mean? That's another lyricist that people don't even mention. So I feel like in the history of recorded music in America, I think you have to start that story in the state of Michigan because you got Motown, right? Motown set the stage for a lot. And then after rap came, you still got a lot of really dope rappers and producers out of Michigan. So I feel like, you know, you tell the complete story of Black music in America. I feel like you have to start in the state of Michigan because so much came out of it.
Absolutely. It's a Detroit and New York connection. I'll just say this, like my father was a jazz musician and he played with John Coltrane. He played with Miles Davis. He played the bass. And that's where I get my musical talent from. And my mama, for that matter. My dad was a little bit more famous. And his name was Ali Jackson. And my uncle stayed in New York. His name was Oliver Jackson. He was a drummer. My little brother used to play with Marcellus. He was playing with Marcellus for about 25 years. Wow. So we are very musical in our family. I just chose hip hop because I was too lazy to learn music, which I regret. I should have went on and took the classes when I was a kid. But yeah, so that's our family is very, very, very deep into music. Detroit and New York.
Absolutely. So now YouTube channel. I want to send people to your YouTube channel. What is the YouTube channel for the people that might want to go and hear some of this music?
They could just go to just type in Haru Neteru on your YouTube, and you might have to put /music so it'll take you to my music because I do have martial art videos too.
Okay.
But my whole catalog's on YouTube.
Oh, nice. I just posted that in the chat. So check out Haru Neteru on YouTube, HARUNETERU. Now, brother Haru, I want to play something. This is a new joint. This is like a world premiere, sort of.
Okay.
And this is Sam Sun. This is the artist that was digging your track many years ago. If technology allows, I'm gonna play this video. Oh boy. Oh man. So hold on. Let me see something because I gotta remove your name. Oh, there we go. There we go. This might work. Stay with me. Let me know what you think. Oh, it's not. Oh man, I tell you, I'm like a senior citizen when it comes to this. Something's not right here.
Oh man, I don't feel bad. I'm so behind in technology.
Let me see something. Still not working. I didn't do something right. Oh man, I have to come back to that maybe next week. It's not working. So either way,
put the link in the bio or something so we can
there you go.
In the crowd. We can check it out. Hit the link and check it all out, man.
Smart. I'm
gonna. If you got a link or something, we can check it out. Because I know it's dope. I know you got good taste in music. I mean, the album y'all put together, man, years ago, I still listen to that.
Nice. Did you get the soundtrack? Did you get the soundtrack to the book? I don't know if I sent you that.
No, I don't think you sent me the soundtrack with the book, man. I don't think you sent me that.
I gotta okay. I gotta send you that then.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely.
Yeah, I thought I got that to you. That's my fault, though. I'll get it over to you. But yeah, this is progressively getting better. So this might even be better than what you heard. The last one you talking about.
Cool.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't play the joint, man. I wanted to. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I hear the
Jimmy Walker came to them and he presented a cartoon about 5 years before this. When the trailer came out, we saw it and everybody was like, no.
Netflix, yeah, you ought to be ashamed. Renata Shepherd, yeah, you ought to be ashamed. Shame. When the original aired, not many look like me on the screen. Black faces far few in between. A black family where the father was rare. Matter of fact, this was the first time Hollywood dared to have a head of the household married with 3 kids. A cinematic accomplishment apart from where they would live. There was Jane, Florida, JJ, Thelma, and Mike. JJ got real popular saying Dynamite in a heartwarming, hilarious sitcom with a father doing his best and a mother trying to clean up the mess. The oldest son was a struggling artist battling many hardships in the midst of making us laugh. Not an easy task. The only sister saw education at value. The younger brother was a militant little pharaoh. How can you do a reboot for this? If it ain't right, everybody gonna be pissed. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good.
There are 2 roads out of the ghetto. So far, we have managed to stay on the right road.
Word. New cast members are rats and roaches, baby selling crack. Executives hoping that we didn't notice. Yep. Belligerent, bogus, totally unacceptable. Pardon, even the visual arts less than exceptional. Left the projects 50 years ago. 50 years later, they back in the same building that ain't there no more. Was in Florida moving next to Walona, and Thelma's husband got a new contract. Show me where they at. Who want to see this taking 20 step back mentality? In the projects cramped with food stamps and agony. They got an ulterior motive to paint our people as hopeless. The only brothers they want to see get supported is Jonas. We're tired of the aroma you can smell in the slum. For it to be continued to what was originally done. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. 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 Due to the vision, our people made a petition to get this nonsense removed from the boom tube. Nah, it ain't cool. How can it even be called a reboot? With ethics in the original, but undercurrent subliminal messages in the new one, along with blunt ignorance. Let's band together, get it removed through our due diligence. Hold the creators accountable for the content. In 2024, we won't accept this nonsense. Esther Roller's rolling over in her grave, thinking how was this ratchet animated series ever made?
This is given by the white people, made up by white people. Black community is different. It has a different language and culture altogether.
If you don't talk like we talk, see it like we see it, stop telling our story incorrectly up on the screen.
Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good. Not bad, beating bad, but bad, beating good.
There's so much stuff being offered on television. You got 500 channels with nothing on most of them. You know, repetition of the same old thing, replications of shows that have been successful. That's become the norm. If a show succeeds with 1 knucklehead, then let's do a show with 5 knuckleheads. It doesn't work.
Oh, that's it, brother. You still there?
Right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, that shit is dope, man. Like, I don't even know what they was thinking of trying to come out with good times. I mean, remember the PJs?
Yes, absolutely.
It's the same thing.
Eddie Murphy, yes. And the Boondocks. The Boondocks was a little bit, it's sort of different, but the Boondocks was kind of on that same page. So I feel like we're standing back now, we're looking at these things with different eyes. Like we're seeing it from a different vantage point now, you know? So, yeah.
I mean, the Boondocks try to have a little social commentary. Yes, you know, I give them that. You know what I'm saying? They'll slip some stuff out, but this right here and the PJs and all that, it's just like, yo, man, come on, man. Like, my cousin wrote the Raisin in the Sun. The Raisin in the Sun is what they based the original Good Times show after. Lorraine Hansberry, look it up. That's my cousin. She wrote the first. She wrote A Raven in the Sun. So then they decided to make it into a TV show, and that became Good Times.
Wasn't that Sidney Poitier in the movie?
Yes, Sidney Poitier. Yes,
got it.
It's
Okay.
that movie.
Okay, got it. Okay, I saw that. That's your cousin, Lorraine Hansberry. I didn't know that.
Lorraine Hansberry. Yes.
They did a PBS documentary on her a while back.
Yep.
Interesting. Okay, Brother Haru, our hour is up, man. I gotta bring you back so we can continue this conversation.
No doubt.
And then perhaps maybe next time what we could do is play one of your songs so people can begin to hear your music after they go to Haru Neteru on YouTube. They can come here and hear some more music. So any date yet on when the book is going to drop, or is it still a project in the works?
It's still a project in the work, but I'll definitely keep you posted on that.
Most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So, Brother Haru, we want to thank you for joining us. We encourage you to stay safe and stay Pan-African, brother.
Thank you, man. You too, brother.
All right. Peace.
Peace.
All right, that was good, bro.